It's almost hard to believe this game released 6 years ago in 2015 as an early access game and then fully released 2 years later in 2017. Ark has gone through an immensely large amount of changes that have affected the game in both good ways and bad. So in this video, I want to hopefully give you enough information about the game to be able to answer the question, is it worth it to play Ark in 2021? Before we jump into it though, if you do enjoy this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more content on the channel. So, let's first talk about what is Ark from a general point of view and how much does the game cost. If you don't know by now, Ark is a giant open world survival sandbox game that was created by the developers Studio Wildcard that focuses on 4 core things: food, water, shelter, and well, it's pretty obvious, dinosaurs. Ark is more unique than most survival games with its addition of dinosaurs that are tameable and help add to the game's overall experience. As of making this video, Ark Survival Evolved can be picked up on Steam for $29.99, but this game also does go on sale quite often. Next, let's talk about what Ark has to offer and what the gameplay is like. Ark has 9 DLC maps, 4 of those which are free, and the other 5 need to be purchased in order to play. There are a total of 174 creatures in the game, and 139 of those creatures are tameable. So as you can see, Ark has no lack of content to be played and explored, so now let's take a look at its gameplay. Ark is quite similar to what you see in other survival games. You start with nothing but your itchy wrist, your fists, and no clothes, and you work your way up to the best stuff in the game. Ark's gameplay can really be broken down into 3 different parts: the early game, mid game, and late game. So let's start off by talking about the early game. This is where you get all of the starter items and tames and attempt to find yourself a place to build a base. This is a fun but difficult part of the game. You will definitely find yourself being mauled down by some sort of carnivore dino, leaving you with nothing but to respawn and try all over again. You will often have just enough stuff to really not want to die, but have to sometimes take risks in order to get to the next stage of the game, which is the mid game. At this point, you have a solid base setup and gear and are working towards getting those bigger and better tames. This is also a fun stage of the game because you are able to make the game easier to survive with the bigger tames. You feel like you have a solid foundation under you until you find yourself still dying to some of the even more annoying parts of Ark. Dinos like terror birds or Troodons that can knock you out if you don't have high enough fortitude, or accidentally falling off a giant cliff into a pack of direwolves. No matter what part of the game you are in, you can always count on it being an adventure. Next up then we move into the late game. This is where Ark really begins to shine in my opinion. You are now on to taming the biggest and baddest of the dinos, and if you choose to do so, you can breed and create armies of dinos that you can take into battle against other dinos or different bosses the maps have to offer. This is a quick version of the sort of progression over time that you will more than likely experience when playing Ark. Most people will say this game has some sort of a grind to it in order to work your way up, but that is also the nature of the survival style of games. Now let's take some time to go over what I think are some of the cons of the game. First up, some quick things you will notice pretty fast. The game is quite buggy. You will notice how sometimes you will attempt to shoot something and you will hear the sound of it hitting, but the shot didn't actually register. Dinos or your character can sometimes easily get stuck on the terrain, causing you to die. Figuring out how to build and where you can and cannot build can be really frustrating for new players. The combat with either other players or even dinos can feel really clunky and just downright bad at certain times. Also, in order to host a server for just you and your friends, you will have to pay money for the server. So this means if you don't pay for a server, you are stuck playing on the official servers the game has or other unofficial servers that the people host. This for me is one of the biggest cons I have with the entire game, but I understand for some people this may not be an issue. But from personal experience, I have had quite a rough time trying to find the perfect server to play with my friends, so do keep this in mind. Next up, let's talk about PvP. I could almost make an entire video on PvP in Ark itself, but I'll try to keep this short and simple. Do not play Ark for its PvP. In my opinion, it's absolutely horrendous. PvP servers are extremely difficult to play as a casual player or if you play solo. solo. It's an endless loop of joining a server to play for a couple of hours and grind and get a base down and possibly some starter teams to just hop off for the night and wake up the next day to find out that all of your stuff has been destroyed. The only way to make it in PvP servers is to play with a very large tribe or play non-stop for at least 24 hours straight, which, let's be honest, is just not feasible. People constantly cheat by finding places to build inside of the map, and people are extremely toxic and will go to great lengths to make sure your experience on the game is as horrible as they can make it. With PvP out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about another con that I have, which is bad overall performance. I currently own a PC that is in the middle of the pack, or a budget PC as most people would call it, and it's really not that good, but it's really also not that bad. And I still have to lower my settings quite low in order to get the most FPS, which ranges from anywhere to 70 FPS to 130 depending on where I am at and what is going on. One thing to also note about this game that can be a huge con as well is this game requires you to log on often, especially like I said if you were trying to play PvP. In order to enjoy this game fully means you have to play it regularly in order to keep your dinos fed and kept from starving, or even keeping your generators full of gas to have power to your base and turrets to protect things. This for a lot of people can be a quick turn off to the game. So if you are only able to play games on the weekends, this will be a very difficult game to enjoy in my opinion, and I would recommend spending that time playing other games. Overall, Ark is a beautiful game that I think the creators definitely intended to be played with friends. You can certainly have fun playing solo, but Ark at its core is 10 times more fun with people in my opinion. Ark can quickly become a game that you can sink endless amounts of hours into, but in my opinion the game is only worth it if you are able to overlook the bad performance, the glitches, bugs, and you enjoyed the PvE side of things. The dinos are certainly worth it, and taking the time to tame them, name them, and explore the game's amazing looking world is very satisfying. You will notice how the game is a roller coaster of emotions, where one moment you will be enjoying the game so much to literally the very next moment being so frustrated because you just lost the dino you just tamed that you worked so hard for. So hopefully I was able to give you enough information about what Ark is like and what you can expect if you decide to play in 2021. Personally, I have made so many memories on this game, and I look forward to the things that are coming to Ark with the announcement of a new map called Lost Island, which is set to release by the end of 2021, which will also come with more new dinos to tame. There is also the next installment of Ark, the sequel Ark 2, which was announced in December of 2020, and the game is set to release sometime in 2022. I will leave a link in the description for the trailer of Ark 2 if you would like to check that out. But with that said, that is all I have for today's video. If you enjoyed, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and most importantly of all, have a wonderful day.